welcome to what is both in video and on podcast form a pre-Christmas catch-up chat, late night in my room. I think Becca's going to do one of these as well. I think we've just really struggled this month to find any time together, and it's always the thing that makes me feel quite frustrated and guilty, and often it's me bailing because of burnout, or Becca getting work at last minute and things that are really kind of either unavoidable or whatever. But we are also capable of speaking on our own, and sometimes I think that's nice as well to hear our independent thoughts. I certainly love the episodes Becca does alone, and how they are just so reflective, and it's almost like listening to someone's diary. And I quite enjoy that. So I thought, let's just chat. I haven't massively planned this. I have a rolling note on my phone of things I want to cover. But I kind of think maybe this could just be a catch up. Because I was thinking I could go so deep. I could really delve into stuff, do research and everything. But I think getting towards the end of the year and Christmas, I'm just not in a research place. So maybe I'll just start with my life, and that will maybe be either interesting or helpful. I really want to reflect properly this year. I think the start of last year, it had felt like it had just come to this huge climactic end, and so many things had happened in the year, both personally and professionally. It was just huge. And then this year it's felt like I've lived more fully and more aware of everything. But with that time, I feel like I've had more time to have fun and spend money and eat amazing food and do amazing things. And I don't want to feel guilty for that, but for some reason in the last few days, I have been really reflecting on how much I've been spontaneous, and you could even say reckless sometimes with the decisions I've made. But they felt like, okay, I'm in good health. I don't have anyone responsible. I'm not responsible for anyone. And I have freedom financially. I'm going to go for it. I've wanted to go for it. So earlier this month for my birthday, I went to Iceland, and that was an amazing trip. It was the first time I'd done a solo trip that was purely abroad, that was purely for pleasure and not for work. And I arrived in a bit of a heap in Iceland because I was dealing with a lot of burnout at the start of December. And it was really crippling, actually. I was so exhausted all the time, and I felt really as if all the things I'd agreed to do just fell on top of me. The end of November was like a car crash of trying to get lots of articles written that I'd agreed to, and then suddenly my brain wasn't able to function at the level that it could. And that was really devastating in the moment, because it was can I just do the bare minimum? And the answer was not really. I'm getting really hot. And that was tough to come to terms with. I don't like when my brain decides that productivity isn't possible. I think productivity, it's in a healthier place, but it's also something work is something that brings me a great sense of purpose. And when I can't complete it, I feel very empty. There's not so many compulsions anymore with work. Guilt isn't so much of an emotion, but it's just a desperation and emptiness with burnout. Anyway, but yeah, Iceland was just so gorgeous and peaceful, and doing things, seeing things that I really wanted to do and see in the moment. I feel like I'm running out of things to say. It's so interesting how, like, sometimes I feel my mind is like bursting with ideas and stuff. And this month, the end of this year, it's been great. But it's also, I have that feeling in my brain of like, maybe this is part of the burnout of like, you reach for thoughts, you reach for reflections, and where all that space normally is, it just feels like empty. And like there's nothing to really grasp on. And that's always the moment where I feel like in my mind I'm reaching, or my mind is trying to go towards these topics and these things that I know will come really easily, but I'm scared of them. I'm scared to share them. And that just really that's just really interesting, because I know if I start opening a can of worms, then I will be able to talk easier, but like, what would it mean? What could it possibly mean? Yeah, I guess I'll talk about it without mentioning names, maybe. Maybe that's easier. I guess this month I came to terms with someone close to me going through a rough time, and I witnessed how seeing them weaker than I've ever seen them before broke something down inside of me too. I think my ego and stuff had made me think that I was really strong now, and I'm on meds now, and I've gained a lot of independence in therapy, and everything is working on one level. But I didn't really realize the impact of someone that you've just naturally had holding you your whole life. You see that like the thread is like fraying, and watching that, it's so disconcerting in a way that both makes me think, oh, is that how people felt when they saw me going through this? But I feel like, to be honest, this person is a man. And I think with men, we don't talk enough about how often these figures can be the bedrock of our lives. And we encourage vulnerability from them. But when they show vulnerability, like, it can be so scary, because it's almost like the strength I believe in the world I put on men sometimes. Like, when I don't feel strong, I see the strength in some of the men in my life that I love, and I see that strength, and I kind of like idolize it as something to aim for. And so when I see that strength is like at its core really, really suffering, to be honest, like, that for me was such a bursting of emotion, and such a like, it just came to the surface of like how horrific losing this person could feel, or how horrific something, a depression or a mental change in them could feel for me. I really noticed that. And I don't know if that's to do with patriarchy, if that's to do with feminism, what that's to do with, but I feel like I can't cope with seeing some male figures in my life weak. I struggle with that. And I don't like that. I don't like that they don't have the permission to feel depressed. I don't know what it is. I think it's almost like, what, you're not going to be there for me anymore. Like, what, you're not coming forward with the sort of, you're not saying the things that I'm so comfortable hearing from you, that were always said by you, all the silly jokes, all the little witterings, all the like reassuring phrases, all of the chit chat was always there, even when I was struggling. And now that is changing, and now that is absent. And that's horrible. Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, all I can say about it right now. But let's chat about like how we treat men and how we encourage this vulnerability, but when we see it, like, it's so freaky and it doesn't feel fun. um Another thing that's kind of felt very at the front of my mind, and I definitely want Rebecca to talk about it with me, um, is jealousy. And I'm only gonna like talk about it a little bit, but I had a situation at work where somebody got an opportunity that I really wanted, and I got really angry, I guess. Um, and it kind of awoke this part of me that I thought I'd put to bed, of just that like utter sort of fear and terror and almost willing someone, almost willing things to go wrong for someone because you want something or you think you're more deserving or you hope you're more deserving, and not really seeing the reality of where you're at. Like I remember with my cello playing, other people would get much higher marks than me, and in my head I would often have this like dialogue of, oh, but I felt like maybe I was on their level. What did they not, what did the panel not see, or what am I missing? And then I would convince myself that like I played in a way that was unremarkable because it was just so emotional and brilliant. And I don't know whether it's actually coming to terms with the fact that sometimes other people do better work than you, and that's okay. Other people make better art than you, and like that's fine. I don't know. It really, I'm just very aware of when those tensions, those tense relationships in work or like artistic circumstances, when they come up. Because in the past it's been like a jealousy, but there's also been a kind of even sexual tension there in that jealousy, which has been really, weird, and almost kind of fighting to see who, like survival of the fittest. Like I remember so much of the time I wouldn't call things out in a teacher, I wouldn't call things out that I was seeing because I was like, well, I'm stronger because I can cope with this. I think jealousy is quite a lot like that. Like, I don't know, I'm like talking all around my hat here with the jealousy thing. I just kind of want to open it up as like a thing. Um, I don't really feel, I feel like I chose to go into writing because not really anyone was writing about the things I wanted to write about. And I don't compare my writing to other people's. I don't feel jealous about people writing things better than me. I feel jealous about people sometimes making connections. I think it's quite a people thing for me. Like I want to know the cool people. I want to be in with the cool people. I want to get the cool opportunities and connect with amazing people. It's not necessarily about like the writing or about the playing or the art. It's kind of about like being seen as being important or being seen as being the best, maybe even. I love this idea of being the best, the core of myself. I really have this striving for that, which I wish wasn't there. um so maybe that's more about what jealousy comes from for me, but I don't know if that's the same for everyone. um and then I guess another thing was this ambition trap we get into, which I guess is kind of related, of wanting, being an ambitious person and wanting the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, but kind of realizing that what will you end up with if you always get the next thing and the next thing? Like, what would I actually find at the end of another job or £10,000 more of a salary? Is that really something that would solve any problems in my life or like help? I think there's like, at the end of this year I have this kind of like comfort in feeling stagnant. I feel kind of stagnant, but in like a nice way. In a kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna be stagnant now. And people are like, oh, what do you want to do in the future? And I'm like, stagnant. We're gonna stay here for a bit. We're gonna sit in the discomfort of like We're still going to scroll LinkedIn. We're still going to like look at all the cool jobs. But there aren't that many, let's be real. Like, and it's effort. I do not want to apply for another job. But like, I think I equate comfort and like ease of life with not achieving enough. Who can relate? So now things are working out. I'm labeling it as stagnant, but maybe it's not stagnant. Maybe it's like actually really cool, like actually really what I want to do and stuff. But in my mind, it's like it's not hard, so it's stagnant. And I think that's just like sad because I've worked hard to get to this point where things don't suck so much anymore. And that's nice, but it's still like stagnant in my mind. And it's still kind of like, I want to do an MBA. I want to go live in another country. I want to like mess up my life. And then I do imagine myself in all the situations. I'm like, yeah, you'd be sad. Imagine yourself there right now. I think you'd be a bit sad. Thoughts. What about New Year's resolutions, everyone? What are yours? I haven't thought about mine. Maybe we could think about them right on the spot. This year I want to manage my money better, as I kind of alluded to. I'm currently in an overdraft a little bit. And it's not a nice feeling. There's a lot of shame there. I've never been someone that can like look at my bank account. I know some people are quite obsessive with like checking their bank account. No. Horrible. I am a checker, but like not with that. I neglect to look at it. I ignore, avoid. But next year I kind of want to look into it. And in my head it goes in with the like wanting to be a leader and a manager. And I'm like, I feel like I should be better with money. Because even on my magazines, like I struggle with the budgeting side of it. Because I just put, I want to give people good money. I want to feel like their writing is worth something. And then I'm sort of like, fuck the budget. We can sort it out later. But then that never works. So I kind of want to budget. But in my head, I'm like, I can do it in a slightly less horrible way. But I think maybe I just need to confront the elephant in the room that is my finances, because I get to the end of every month and I don't have any money left, and that's every single month. And I don't think I want it to be like that forever. So that's number one. I guess what would number two be? I don't know. I kind of have a resolution in prayer, I guess, as well. Meditation. I really like socializing, and a lot of the time I love being alone, but I also love being with people. I tell everyone I love being alone, but in actual fact, when I am alone, I tend to be on a screen, blah, 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 of course, or whatever. And I just want to, maybe even want to seek out places more where there's like a prayerful atmosphere, like a sort of being in communion in silence with people. Aren't that many places where that happens, but there are some. Like I found the sauna to be a really beautiful place for that. And I don't know any of these people, I don't know their names, don't know anything. And we're all there like quiet together. And that is how church is. But I guess there's something really beautiful about doing that with people your own age that I've never experienced before. Like I had it a bit. I used to be part sometimes of this like young people's thing called Teze, like Christian thing. But it was still a bit like not quite me. And every time I go to church, like I adore old people. I think I'm really good with old people. Like I love making friends with them, but at the same time, something nice about feeling on a spiritual wavelength with people your own age. And I guess with like dating and stuff as well, I don't know how to communicate to someone that like being part of what I want in a relationship is that prayer vibe, or like seeking out spaces together where you can enter into awe or like wonder or like just complete peace. Um, because I don't know how much of a priority that is for a lot of people, but I really feel like that's a priority for me for next year. Um, and I really struggle to be like upfront and honest with people I'm dating and saying, no, I don't really like drinking, or saying no, or like telling them, prayer is important to me, or this is what I really like to read, or I kind of like squash quite a lot of those things and end up presenting this like lovely, well marketed package that's very like ordinary and palatable with like a bit of spice. But I kind of want to enter into the anger of like why I feel I have to be like that in those spaces. And maybe I can just be completely true, but that's far too scary. That's far too scary. Maybe 2026 could be the year for that, but maybe not now. Who knows? I feel like I should have another resolution. I just don't know. Is there anything else on my list? What about? I still feel like I have this empty brain thing. I feel like I can't. I feel like I have nothing interesting to say at the moment. That is so frustrating. Because I often feel pressure to like say stuff and be interesting and debate things, and I don't know, I think I just don't have the energy, and I'm sorry about that. um See, I just want to sit and like sigh in silence, but you can't really do that on a podcast. You still got to fill the time. I find that really annoying. Um yeah, I've done the jealousy. I've done that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should refilm this when I'm in a more ranty mood. Maybe I should just tell you about my Christmas. I'm going tomorrow to my parents' house in Dumfries and Galloway. Um, I'm going to stay there until I think the 28th. It's going to be really nice. Life is just so like on an even trajectory, not trajectory. It's just so monotonous, not even in a bad way, but I feel like I had more to say when things were dramatic. People are asking me at the moment, like, how are you and stuff? And I authentically being like, I'm fine. I'm great, even, because it's true. But then in my head, I'm like, I have nothing more to tell you. What do you want to hear about? Do you want to hear about my house? Do you want to hear about the new candles I bought for my bedroom? Because I can tell you about that. I bought this lovely Christmas incense in Iceland, actually. I could tell you about that. I could tell you about my family. Um, they're fairly good. They're fairly cool. I could tell you about anything. I could tell you about I'm feeling about the cello if you want to know. To know. Sick of it sitting there in the corner and not being used. I haven't played it for 6 months. Probably longer, actually. Maybe, don't know. Who cares? But I don't like the fact that it's just sitting there. I used to spend like every evening as well playing the piano, like playing hymns, and just chords and hymns and stuff. And then I got massively into the bass guitar and would just play that all the time. Now I'm in this phase where I don't want to play music at all. And even when I'm out and about, the AirPods are silent. Who else? They're silent. I don't know, words and sounds and music. It's all just like it feels like clutter in my brain at the moment. Not all the time, but like a lot. And I often feel like I start playing carols, for example, like so early, and I find new ones and I research, and like it's always been something that every year I've like really entered into. And this year it's probably probably because I put together a full Christmas carol issue for my magazine in October, so I'm probably just sick of it. Not to be negative, um, but music just I don't feel drawn to expressing myself in that way. I don't know if I even feel drawn to expressing myself. The only way I feel drawn to expressing myself is like in silence. Just like, I just feel the urge to just be silent. Like I'll take a book places when I know I'm going to be somewhere. Like in Iceland, like I took like 3 poetry books. I took writing stuff. I took pens and paper. And I would sit in these coffee shops. Sometimes I was scrolling. I won't lie. Sometimes I was texting, but like half the time I was literally just sitting with my AirPods in silence and just being like, whoa. Whoa. I don't know what whoa at, but just whoa in general. Overwhelm, burnout, whoa. I don't need necessarily right now any more stimulation. Playing music is so stimulating. Like the whole the cello is massively loud. It's very hard to play it like low key. It's not asking to be low key. It's like screaming when you play it. It's just like meh. I don't feel like I need that, so I'm just like, it's fine. We can chill over there. But it's a shame. It's a massive shame. Uh, However, I feel minus guilt about it. Guilt. I left guilt back a few years ago. Never going back there. I cannot believe how much guilt I lived my life with as a musician, performing musician. My whole existence was guilt. I cannot believe that. That is one thing I just cannot believe. The like guilt of work, the guilt of not doing enough, and then turns into the guilt of eating too much, for example. It permeates everything. We are taught in this like see, I'm starting the soapbox has been erected and I am now fine. I can speak. But we are literally surrounded by this emotion and construct of guilt from day dot. I don't know why. I think it's in the blood of the industry. It's just like so ingrained. And it goes into absolutely everything we do. Like emails, it goes into food for some people, drinking, feeling guilty for drinking too much, feeling out of control, feeling like you haven't got reins on yourself. You haven't got any control. And so you're just constantly either guilty or exhausted. I do not ever want to feel that level of guilt ever again. What I noticed about guilt as well is like it's so similar to OCD. With OCD, if you do what your thoughts are telling you, the thoughts will come back. So if you do what guilt is telling you, the guilt will come back. If you are feeling guilty that you haven't played, this is hard because I don't know. I was just gonna say, if you're feeling guilty that you haven't played your instrument in a week, if the only reason you touch it is to like alleviate the feeling of guilt, then the guilt is gonna come back. So the only way that you kind of heal guilt is to like sit with it, move on, allow it to live there, and then after a while, the guilt doesn't exist anymore. Um, and any time I've wanted to touch the cello, so say like twice in the past year, both times have not been out of guilt. And so I feel like that's maybe the start of like something genuine going on. Sometimes we obviously feel guilty for not doing. Like sometimes I'll spend the morning pissing about and I haven't worked and I feel bad. But that's a bit more productive than like I didn't practice for exactly 4.5, or I only did 4.5 hours today, not 5 hours. I must stay an extra half an hour. I must go home half an hour early to do that extra 30 minutes of practice. Shut up. Past me, shut up. You're annoying. You're really annoying. Musicians are so annoying. The guilt of that is a pain, and I don't like it. I don't like listening to it. I now hear how annoying it sounds to everyone else. It's annoying. But it's not our fault. Like, it's just everywhere, and it's a pain. But whatever. When it's not our fault. I knew I'd find something to talk about. I found this book that I think I bought, and I'm worried maybe I was gifted it. It's called Christmas Lasts Forever, and I just remember that it has some really sweet poems in it. It's just very like, it's got a lot of prayers in it as well, actually, which is nice. It's just a lot of like reflections on Christmas. I am a Christmassy person, of course, but I kind of have let go of this like the whole festive thing. Are you feeling festive? Blah, blah. What does feeling festive mean? Because in my head, feeling festive was something I felt as a kid, the magic of Father Christmas. And then I still felt that time, like sometimes as a teenager, but I just remember every Christmas as a teenager, it was like this kind of fading festivity. And I was kind of craving this festive feeling that was only really something I felt so strongly as a child. And now I feel most festive like around Halloween. And I feel festive for Halloween and for autumn. And I feel that as like a freshness in my soul. And an excitement and an anticipation. And it's lovely because I feel like it's not being bombarded. Like Halloween, I guess we are bombarded with, but like you can kind of ignore it until the day and then have the day. With Christmas, you can't ignore it. I've tried in the past to like pace myself with carols and stuff so that then I have this big festive moment. I feel some of the food brings up happy feelings and memories. Some of the carols and songs do. Some of the traditions, and sometimes when the weather is like under 10 degrees, lol, it feels sort of cozy. But I don't really know what this notion of festive is, and it bothers me that I'm looking for it sometimes. Because I think it's kind of hearkening to something that doesn't exist. And then I get depressed and disappointed when it doesn't exist. What is it we're looking for in all this Christmas stuff? Because, again, like, for me, it feels very hollow without a sense of like silence or having Advent. But you can't keep Advent like Advent. I have kind of had this feeling of like, what would it feel like to go and like go on a retreat or hide from like mid-November until the last week before Christmas, in hiding somewhere, on holiday somewhere where Christmas doesn't exist, and then you come back. How would that feel? Would you feel festive then? Maybe because it would all feel so new and like it hadn't just like sapped you for the last month. I don't know. Festive is a pressure. It's something I think I've kidded myself that I am trying to feel. And maybe I think part of it doesn't exist for me anymore. It's changed. And that was kind of griefy for a while. I feel like the first half of this podcast made no sense and was really quite dull. So I do apologise. But I just want to say, wish you a very Merry Christmas. This is very low key, I know. I probably won't edit this because I can't be bothered, and I just want to get out some nice words and some vibes to you before Christmas without worrying about it being too perfect. I probably will have more resolution things when I've actually properly thought about it. And by the way, it is currently 1:30 in the morning. Which could probably be part of the problem of the brain function. But wishing you all a really Merry Christmas. I love chit-chatting. I love this space. I'm so grateful to it. Thank you for all of your support and love throughout the last year. Thank you for listening, and yeah, have a beautiful Christmas. And if it's awful, that's fine. It's not. Actually, I'm sorry if it's awful. It can. No words for the awful Christmas people out there who feel they're gonna have a bad Christmas or hate it or feel really triggered. No words, because it's really hard. I'm not even gonna say but. All I'm gonna say is I hear you, I feel you, I'm gonna be thinking of you, praying for you. And I hope things rise up in the new year with some semblance of peace. Yeah, sending loads of love. I'm sorry that I didn't give much eye contact in this if you're watching on video. But eye contact is for, for people with normal brains who don't feel awkward. And that's not me. So there we go. Sending lots of festive love if you feel that. If you don't, love. If you don't celebrate, love. I need to shut up. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year when it comes. Lots of love.